to the bunker. Join Nikki, Rosella, Robert, Kayla, and Cole Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time as we traverse the portals of the universe. Discover the secrets of the cryptids. Uncover the truth of conspiracy. And explore the hauntings of our world. And once again, welcome to the S4 Paranormal Bunker.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another amazing episode of the S4 Paranormal Bunker.
Hi, guys.
So, tonight, we are talking about the one, the only, the Bigfoot. Fran, as some people call him, Biggie. Although, you know, that's not nice. That guy wasn't actually that hairy.
Hey, whoa.
Fran,
I prefer Mr. Squatch, okay? Like,
You guys just cut in and out big time.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was hearing that. Fran. Actually, it's weird. Skype is now giving me messages when that happens.
awesome.
Oh,
Not at all.
So,
that's weird.
well, that's kind of cool, though, that they at least tell me that people are going to have trouble hearing me. So, but, yeah, tonight we're talking about Bigfoot. Anything and everything to do with him. If anyone has any new information, old information. I had an argument with my father just an hour ago about the origins of Bigfoot because he says that the reason he's named Sasquatch is because he's from Saskatchewan. Fred. So, I also did tell him at the end of that argument that I'm going to tell everyone that he was touched by Bigfoot. So, Fred, if anybody wants to go to his house, you can go there and take a doll with you and ask him where the big bad Bigfoot touched him. Fred.
Michael Landon strikes again.
You are pushing your boundaries with me
Touched
now.
by an angel. Touched by Bigfoot.
He doesn't get to see me for another 3 months, so it's okay. Fred, he'll forget by then.
Oh, wow.
Dementia kicking in.
Fred. Whoa.
Wow.
Why you got to bring up the serious stuff?
It happens to people in their 800s.
Ooh.
You're going to be there with a week or like for a week with him alone. You really want to do this?
He'll practically forget I'm there.
All right. So, Bigfoot, guys. Known
You gotta
as
show
hairy
you guys.
man. Wowee.
Fran,
Yeah.
Kayla got me a new lighter. Fran. With a picture of herself on it. Kind of cool. Fran.
Oh, man.
So,
My daughter-in-law got me a little Sasquatchy.
Oh, nice.
cool. I have one of those, but mine has a light that comes out his mouth.
That's hilarious.
Fran, I love those things.
I do too, actually.
I have a
I was
little
really excited.
Kayla's aunts buy me and her mom buy me little Bigfoot things that anything they can find. And so I have a little like 1 inch tall Bigfoot that's just freestanding. I've got a bottle opener. I've got the Bigfoot feet that you put on your fingers.
Yeah, she got me coasters, for setting glasses and stuff on.
Oh, rock
Oh,
on.
nice.
Yeah. So, and where'd she get that? She got that in Leavenworth.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
The new
Oh, and
addition to our our little characters here is the Bigfoot on top, and he's actually a hat. And I got that one in Seaside, Oregon, and Cole got one just like it, but it's white. And if you grab that one's leg, little arms come off of the top of the hat and wave at you.
It's also very cool because, and when I wear it, I have white privilege all of a sudden. It's very nice.
We had to have just made people like stop and stare because we wore those things all around Seaside. And then, like, Cole would come up and be like, hello, and squish the leg, and it would just be like, hi.
It was my favorite purchase. But they are so hot to wear.
Oh my god, yeah, we were dying by like 2 blocks. We were like, oh, sweaty. Oh god, it was terrible.
It made me have so much empathy for Bigfoot in the summer. Friend, because if I'm wearing his fake... Yeah. Friend, if I'm wearing his fake hair and be hot, friend... Could you imagine having that much hair on your head and having to deal with that all the summer? Yeah, well,
of your body.
Right.
Why'd you look at me when you said that? Oh, I'm sorry. Just kidding. All right. So, anyways,
friend, no, like me. Oh. Hi, Nikki. I was looking at the comments.
Hello.
Friend. So. Me and Kayla actually have been arguing about this. Because, as most of you know, and some of you know, maybe not all of you know, Kayla doesn't believe in Bigfoot.
It's not that... Okay. Let's retake that. It's not that I don't necessarily believe in Bigfoot. It's that I have... When it comes to this kind of stuff, I look at it from more of a scientific point of view. Okay? And I believe that if there is some kind of a creature out there, that he is most likely like giant... how do I even put that? He's a hominin, he's a early man, more. And like if you actually look at like some of the evidence that they have with like mitochondrial DNA and stuff that they've ran on supposed Bigfoot hair samples, blood samples, tissue samples. It comes up.
Are you talking about Melba Ketchum's?
Yes. Yeah.
Dr. Melba Ketchum is a literal expert on the genome of Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
And the science community tried to debunk her.
Yes, absolutely.
And they didn't want to believe it. Plus, the government got involved, if I remember correctly. But anyway, she stood by her documentation and it's science. It's literally lab work. And it took a long frickin' time.
Mm-hmm.
But she ran the genome, and it's pretty impressive stuff. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You guys still here?
We're still here. Yeah, we're still here.
Okay.
Okay. I'm dealing.
She had to go out and come back in?
No, her internet dropped. I'm just seeing if she's...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
she finally disappeared, Kate. So,
Okay, so what I was saying about her research, though, is that the samples were tested, and they were tested in various different labs, and they were tested under no pretense saying, hey, this is Sasquatch DNA. It was a blind test. They also had several different skeptics, like, they managed that testing really, really well for what it was. Absolutely.
Yes.
Some of the DNA samples did come back as other creatures in the woods. Okay, so there were a few of them that came back as completely human. There were a couple of them that came back as brown bear and that kind of a thing. But the bulk of them came back with the mitochondrial DNA being a match to human DNA, but the nuclear DNA being an unknown. nothing that's ever been cataloged in the
in history.
yes, like an unknown creature, unknown animal, unknown origins. So with that, I do believe that there is something out there. I'm not huge on a lot of people's theories about Bigfoot. I really don't believe that Bigfoot has alien origins. There's a lot of people that state that Bigfoot has alien origins, and I don't think that that's true, especially if you do take that DNA testing into factor. Then potentially part of it might have been alien origins at one point, but it has human mitochondrial DNA. So it is a subspecies. At some point we shared an ancestor.
Have you listened to Dr. Ketchum talk about her research?
I did a little bit. I'm not I'm not very up to date on it. I've seen a couple of different things. I've read a few articles, but not in depth.
Is it Robert? Is it Bigfoot Michigan Rob, or is it? I always mix the two of them up. I always get them mixed up every single damn time, and so I apologize to both gentlemen because I like both gentlemen very much. They're both wonderful. Bigfoot Michigan Rob and oh god, I remember the name of the other one. One of them did an interview, a 2 or 3 part interview with Dr. Melba Ketchum on her research.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about where it's the female, it's a female human DNA is what they figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And that fascinates me because they were able to pinpoint it all the way down to which male or female and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you talk to, which I have not, it's somebody that I do need to talk to, Robin Haynes, Haynes. She has Sasquatch on her property who she talks with daily. They protect her. They let her know information, actually across the globe. If you talk to our Keith Andrews, he talks about, as far as he knows, that they are part ET and human and some other form of ET.
Yeah, wasn't he also the one that brought up the Awari or the Wari or?
Yes.
Yeah. That's like kind of like Bigfoot, except they're more aggressive and they are an ET race.
They're much more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that I understand that are like that are like the skunk ape in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are, from what I've heard, I'm not experienced, but from what I've heard from others who have experienced them, or from other podcasts that I've listened to of people of interviewers that I actually trust.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, that for me is a big deal. Because there's so much crap and garbage out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of made up stuff. And so these folks vet. They do a pretty good vetting of their.
Guess?
Yes, thank you. God. I got nailed really hard on Sunday, and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. So,
You don't say.
yeah. So, I'm having a problem with words right now, but anyway, the point is that the skunk ape, to me, in my opinion, are the ones that sound more like the Awarhe or Awar. I can't remember how he pronounces it.
Awahi.
I've got his book. Say it again.
Awahi.
Awari? I don't know. It's
he
something.
said that the R is kind of silent.
Oh, that's right. He did say something along those lines. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out myself, because from my personal experience, the Sasquatch at Mount Baker, like on the hill, on the surrounding the peak, so around you guys' area, because you guys are at the base of the mountain. But on the mountain itself, what I have specifically been told is that clan absolutely cannot stand the ETs at all, and they will do anything to protect themselves and who they consider their loved ones from the ETs. And I'm like, I became a piñata one day when I was up at Mount Baker, so I know that they keep their word when they say they will not let you get off Earth, not even 1 foot or 6 inches off this planet. They will keep you firmly grounded to this planet if you do not want to be abducted.
Now, see, the thing is that, okay, so the 2 species that I've read about that are more aggressive as far as Bigfoot stories go, is the skunk ape and the, oh my gosh, Wari? They're in Australia. What?
Oh God.
The Yowie.
The Yowie.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then there's been reports also of Yeti being more aggressive towards. So what I'm thinking, like, honestly, if this is an actual race and they do exist and there's subsectors of them around the world, if you think about the environments, okay? So if you think about skunk ape being from Florida and Yowie being from Australia, those are very harsh environments with a lot of predators to be living in. So they would almost have to be more aggressive in order to live in a predator-driven area. Now, the same thing with, like, Yeti. It's living in a cold climate where there isn't as much available food, there isn't as much available anything, and it doesn't see anywhere near the amount of human beings or anything else, so it would be more protective of its area being there than, like, the Pacific Northwest, where, honestly, we have predators, but nothing that could take on a full Bigfoot. We have a couple of bears and stuff like that potentially could, but they're not going to. Like, it's like a standoff almost.
Well, and you got to realize too, we also have the Dogman. And Dogman, I didn't realize how prevalent Dogman really was all over the world. I thought it was pretty much condensed to the United States and Canada. No. We're talking Europe, we're talking even England, an island such as England. That actually blew me out of the water. I was like, it just completely opened up my mind. A Dogman will take on a Sasquatch. I know this from personal experience because of Joe Monk's property in California, and what I experienced through a Sasquatch's eyes totally blew my mind. I was just like, holy crap. So,
but
as
far as, like, everyday
different species.
Danger.
Everyday stuff,
like, everyday danger, there isn't anywhere near as much here, like, as far as aggressive animals and different things like that, versus,
and
like,
normal.
Like, think of Florida. Florida has a ridiculous amount of venomous things and gators and all kinds of stuff. And then think about parts of Australia that they've been seeing, and there's a lot of venomous animals, there's a lot of aggressive animals. So I'm thinking that the reason that those three are as aggressive as they are is a lot to do with the environment that they have to deal with on a daily basis. Not to mention both Australia and Florida are warmer climates in the areas that they're found. So that's gotta suck to be in that much fur and be that hot all the time. Same thing with the Himalayas, are one of the coldest areas. It's gotta suck to be freezing half of the time.
Well, I don't know about you, but having your balls frozen off, that'd pretty much piss you off all the time.
Right.
As well as the heat, itching all over.
I'm still a pretty happy guy, guys. Like,
Stop it.
What I know about the Sasquatch is that their fur, their hair, their long hair, because I don't want to call it fur, but I just did, but because I don't know what else to call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as some of the ETs, because some of the ETs have hollow core hair. Well, as Robert pointed out a number of weeks ago, many weeks ago on the show, was that that's just like polar bears. Polar bears have a specific kind of hair shaft to where the layers keep them warm and they're insulated in the winter, but they're also oh God,
Cooled down by it.
Yeah, they're also cooled down by it, and I've got not a Miss Marple. What the hell is it called?
Mm-hmm.
The kids show from the '90s.
Well,
the school bus thing.
The Magic School Bus.
Yeah.
Magic School Bus. I've got that episode running through my head right now.
I was about to say Scooby-Doo.
Well, you know, and
God.
other cold climate creatures and stuff like that have what you would call hollow hair too. Like we got the polar bear, you got the alpaca, the reindeer, and moose have a different type of structure to their hair as well.
Yeah.
Or
So I mean,
fur,
whatever yeah, exactly. I mean, what the hell do you call it? I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but seriously, what the hell do you call it? It's hair, but yet it acts like fur.
Well, I mean, for a Sasquatch, I guess
but that's
hair.
the thing. There's a difference. So, okay, polar bears do not have hair.
It's fur.
It is fur because it's hollow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then I would start calling Sasquatch
It would be fur. Yeah.
Friend, did you guys know that we aren't the only ones who have Sasquatches?
What do you mean?
Rosella, did you know that your area has Sasquatches?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Friend, they're called the Grassman.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
I think that Kentucky calls them that too. I think. But yeah, actually I've seen something here with my son. I don't know if I ever talked about that or not.
No.
On here. No? Oh. Yeah. And actually I just wrote a blog article about it that I think that might come out April 1st. So because I'm now doing like a new one every single month, like on the first of the month, it'll publish, like self-publish, so kind of cool automatically. But basically my son, it was about, I think it was like 2022. And it was February, like early into the month, a very clear night, and like cold, but clear. And I was driving back home from a restaurant after seeing my friend play. Like he used to play guitar, and like nobody really was on the roads, and it was only my son and I, because my daughter and like had like another thing that my husband had to go to with her, so it was only him and I. And my son was 5 years old, so actually it was probably farther than that. Yeah, because we weren't even living here. So yeah, like because he's 11 now, so it was a long time ago. But we were driving back home, and it was like so clear. You could see it. You could see the stars. You could see the moon, just like one of those, like everything was lit up. And we were driving down this road that pretty much was just a huge field that a road ran through. And there was no houses on either side, like no barns, anything, just like this big wide area. And all of a sudden up ahead, to the pretty much to the left, I saw I basically saw like something moving on the side of the road, but I didn't really know what it was. It's just like really, it was dark. You could see a lot, but you really couldn't. And this thing was black. All I saw was like a black moving object. And as it got closer and closer, I could see that this thing looked like it was like almost like running in a dog form, running on all fours. But its butt was higher into the air. There's no other way to describe it. Like it was just like up further. And so, I started looking kind of closer, like, what am I seeing when I'm seeing? And as you're trying to wrap your mind around it, all of a sudden it jumped on the road. And my mind was like, you're going to hit this thing if you don't stop. And so I stopped the car like really fast, and it crossed my path in like my headlights, so I could really see it. Its eyes met mine through the windshield, and it was really crazy. It really, like, you could see the pupils of its, like, pretty much the pupils and like the white eye, like the whiteness of the eye, especially it didn't look like, I wouldn't say it glowed, but in my headlights you could really see the whites, especially as it looked at me. And like it had like a long snout, and I would say, because I've had collies, I wouldn't say it's like a collie snout, but it was like a longer snout, as if you were looking at a gorilla in a zoo / something else. You know, like I'm not going to say it was a gorilla escaped from the zoo, because I've thought about that before, but we're crazy too far away from any zoo. We're like 2 hours away, pretty much, like where that was, 3 hours from any kind of zoo. It's not possible. But this thing was also bigger. So if it stood up, it was probably about 10 feet high, like 10, 11 feet high. And this is the weirdest thing. It was carrying something in its mouth. And it looked like it was like a wooden, like something that you would take from like a front door, like a welcome sign, you know, like a crafted kind of sign. It was like on a rope, and it was swinging back and forth. So I don't know what. And people are like, "Oh, you saw a dog, or you saw a dog man." And I'm like, "No, that's not what this thing looked like. It looked like some kind of, I don't know how to say it, like inbred gorilla that was just, it was huge. It was just bigger than a normal gorilla. Because you grow up seeing them at the zoo your whole life. You know that that's not a normal size, you know.
Yeah.
And its feet were more human-like, I would say. Like you could see like this was toes, and you could see it was very black curly fur. And I would compare it to like, a black, like, how golden retrievers, they have like the black form of the, I'm not good with other dog breeds, but the black form of a golden retriever. And then like the hair is like long and kind of curls up at the end. You know what I mean?
They have multiple layers too.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of did look like that. Yeah. I mean, it curled up at the end, and it was like a wave kind of curl, almost like, Alf, the character Alf, how it kind of does that kind of like thing too.
Mm-hmm.
It looked a little bit like that.
Russianoff Charkas is a breed of a dog, and I had a dear friend who used to own Russianoff Charkas, and he used to breed them, in fact. And when they moved to Seattle, she eventually got a dog, a Russianoff Charka rescue. And these dogs are gigantic. I mean, they are bigger than any other dog I've ever come across. And people, when they bark, they sound like bears when they bark. And when they stand up, they are 10 feet tall. When they stretch out, I have this dog, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because this specific breed of dog, I learned the very hard way, has 3 full layers of coat. And what you described is the curly undercoat of the very first bottom layer that goes right up against the skin. And it's fascinating. I learned so much because of this breed of dog. Mm-hmm. And so I've always wondered if Sasquatch and Dogman have these multiple layers of fur to where the undercoat that's up against the skin is really tight and curly, and short but curl. It curls in towards the skin, and it creates this underlayment right up against the skin, and then you've got another layer. So you've got this real thin layer, and then a longer layer, and then the really long hair. I mean, you're talking long hair on these dogs, just like the breed you're talking about.
Like this, I would say that it was probably about 4 inches, but with a wave at the end. And, like my friend used to have like golden retrievers that were like, not the white kind of, the bleached kind of white kind of golden one, but the darker one, and its hair would do that in a wavy kind of style. And that's the only way I can describe it, because once you see that, you're just like, what is this? Because when you see a gorilla at the zoo, their hair kind of goes straight out. It was very different. And its eyes were just really huge, just bigger than a normal, like a gorilla's eye. It looked like a human eye on a really big gorilla. It just looked kind of like something was bred with it. So it was just different than anything I've ever seen. But that was really crazy. So I turned around. I never talked to my son during the whole time because it went past the car. But then I slowly started to turn, remembering my son was in the car, thinking, oh God, he's probably got to be scared to death. And I looked at him and he just stared straight out through the windshield and he said, Bigfoot. And he whispered it. And then I freaked out, stepped on the gas, and then just hurled out of there, like going probably 90 miles an hour for several miles until we were out of the way. Because then I thought, what if this thing turns around and it comes back at our car and it's dark? I won't see it.
They've been known to do that too.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. But Kevin, like my son, he loves finding, it was called Finding Bigfoot back then. When that show was really huge. So this has to be, because before we moved here, it probably was like 2016, 2017 now I think about it. Because if he was 5. But like years later, so this is about 3 years ago, I was actually in Amish country. I was going to write a book in Millersburg about pretty much a haunted historic house there that fell through. Well, while I was there, I was staying with my friend in her old cabin. Now, this cabin dated back before Civil War. So she was on this land that was built into a really large cliff in the Amish Hills. And basically, you could see at the top of it this older property. And she said that house sat there during the entire Civil War. And then when basically the men came back, they came back for the wife or whatever. I think that they built like a house somewhere else because the house was kind of falling apart or something like that. But that pretty much the fireplace still stands on this really big hill and you can see it. And so it's a small cabin, about probably 2 rooms downstairs, 3 rooms downstairs and then 4 rooms upstairs, really small bedrooms. And then has an attached porch. This is all built into this cliff. And we were having a girls' kind of night with her sister that came over, joking around, having fun. We all love the paranormal stuff. And we had gone through this house that was haunted, for a few days, kind of just with me doing paranormal research and them kind of following along kind of thing. And then, so it was a few hours in, we were, of course, we had wine, but we're not crazy drunk or anything. It was only 10 o'clock at night. And then her sister, Cindy, says let's go out into the porch because she's the only one who smoked. So we were like, okay, we'll go out with her to keep her company, that kind of thing you do. And we sat down, and ever since we sat down, I was just feeling a feeling that I can only describe as utter dread. As you just feel dread, something bad's going to happen, but it's it welled up and it just kept getting worse and worse. And so they noticed that I got quiet and they were telling these stories and they're like, you're not listening kind of to us, and looked at me and I'm like, do you guys feel something? And I'm looking across the street the whole time there was a house that you could tell nobody was home. And it was kind of parallel, the house to each other. But directly across was woods that was next to this property that nobody was home. It's a very small little house, white house with little shutters, and it had a huge light on top of it, it was a telephone pole with a light connected. And you could see nobody was clearly home. But I just kept staring at the woods and feeling like something was watching you. But it was something, it wasn't it didn't feel like a person watching you. It felt like you were being hunted. And that's the only way you can describe it. And it just really, that's where the dread came from for sure. Because you can just feel things. Like I can feel elementals too and know to get the hell out of there. You're not welcome here. So I was like, did you guys feel anything? And they're like, well, now that you say it, I'm starting to feel something kind of like odd. The sister said, but then then my friend who owned the house, she didn't feel anything. She never really did. What happened was basically when we started talking, just a little whisper, all of a sudden you heard, "Rah!" Like this. That's the only way I can describe it because I can't do the noise, but it was like this roar mixed between lion and beast. I'm going to just say, only way to describe it. And then, like I said, there was a telephone pole with a light on it, and it started shaking like something was beating on it from behind inside these woods that you couldn't see, that something was hiding in the trees. The treetops were moving like crazy, and you saw the wires, the telephone wires, shaking ferociously, like to this thing a feather. It was, and they were just like kind of whipping, and it was crazy. Because you don't think telephone cords have that much give, but it was nuts. Like
they actually do when you've been in an earthquake. I found that out the hard way. So when you're in an earthquake, those phone wires, you don't think that they have the electrical wires, the phone wires, you don't think that they've got any give whatsoever. They actually do. It's really surprising.
Yeah, it was really crazy because it was moving like, I'd say it was like, they were probably like 3 feet, maybe 5 feet, I would say, because of distance. We were across the street up on this, porch, but probably 3 feet, to like 5 feet in between the two wires, because there's two wires flowing and there's a light on top of the telephone pole, kind of like a combo thing. But yeah, the wires were just crazy, ferociously moving. And then the trees too, about 3 trees, probably maybe 4 behind it. And you heard this thing like, just, roaring. And I just said, I screamed out, run. Now the joke is, since I'm the psychic medium, if I say run, you better damn hell run. Like we're gonna die.
That's what I get too. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they were like, oh shit. And then they started running. So we ran inside, and you had to go through 2 doors to get inside, like the porch door. Then they had this like in between and run in. And I've never done this since I was a child, but I ran like a little 7-year-old inside and ran behind her couch and hid. And they all followed me. Even the owner, of the house. So her husband comes in and he's like, so what you guys doing? He thought like, oh, you guys have been really, you're drinking crazy.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Telling ghost stories or something? And I'm his name's Jed. And I just said, no, Jed, this is what we saw. And he goes, oh, that's nothing. They always come out this time of night. You must have ticked him off. And I'm like, what? And he's just like totally stone-faced serious. And his wife is like, what are you saying? And his wife had no clue what he was talking about. And she's like tucked underneath us too, like what's going on? Like they say run, we're running. And he whips out his cell phone and he starts telling us, like going through recordings, and voice memos. And he's like, look, this is all of the stuff. And it's dated with dates. It has dates, it has times. And he's like, he says that, they come out at 10 o'clock to midnight between the summer and fall. And it was just September, like early September. And he's like, yep, you really ticked them off because they're kind of going into hibernation mode, and starts telling us that there is this like kind of river creek kind of thing that they follow, especially this time of year, and they go hibernate and stuff. He also told me another story that was crazy. That was like, because this is country. This is like Amish country, but they still had some neighbors. Some were close, some were far away. This was way down the street where they actually made these famous like Amish noodles. And they had this barn that was like 100 years old, and the couple was repairing it. And this is about like, then that they said this was 12 years ago. So now it's like 3 years on top of that. So like, 15, like some years ago. But the couple was updating the barn big time to make more, like quantity out of it, right? And they would kind of make these Amish country, those country noodles, egg noodles, and they would freeze them. And they would sell them at these Amish restaurants for like the tourists. Well, the people were updating the barn, and apparently they had their backs turned, and they heard over on the other side of the barn wall, like outside, banging, and it sounded like someone took a stick and was rubbing a stick against the wall while walking.
Yeah.
But it was at a crazy, unusual like height. Yeah, so Robert. But yeah, so they turned around to see something really just, unusually giantly tall, right? Like just slam the door, because it was one of those rolling doors. So it was a rolling door, and just like close the door on them. And they were screaming, what the hell is going on? Who is this? Thinking that, hey, maybe their kids came because they had several children and were playing a joke on them. But they knew it was too tall. So they were yelling and screaming. And in Amish country, you have no phone signal. No phone signal, no matter what service.
You're not allowed. You don't have. They won't allow I call them implantation, because you're putting it into the ground. But as far as I know, from what people have told me, they don't allow cell towers.
And they have to use their land. So they won't allow them in. So they were trapped. Like these people were trapped. Like it trapped them in, and it put a big board over the door, so it couldn't move. So they were banging on the door and stuck in there for 4 hours until their oldest son, because they had a lot of kids, came and like heard them screaming, who just showed up to help them with the barn. And he's like, what the heck's going on? And they're like, yelling at him that he played this really cruel joke, because he was the only one who could have been maybe tall enough to do it, but still was unusual. And he's like, no. And meanwhile, they did say that there was like banging all around the barn, like banging at the unusual height, and just kind of weird animalistic sounds. So it was really crazy, but they had a lot of reports of this.
What would piss them off enough to go after the Amish?
So they weren't actually an Amish couple. They were just living in Amish country. So there's actually not as much Amish as you kind of think, like with the Mennonites. But these people were actual, they had just pretty much like had this company for heritage wise with the family over 100 years, but they were not actually Amish. But they sold it to, like, basically made the noodles, made a nice little label that said Amish country on it, and slapped it on there, But apparently, if you go into town, and the town is like, there's a lot more people in it now, and it's extremely touristy. But if you start talking to a local about the story, they all know who the family was, like, what happened. Everybody knows. It is just crazy.
That's awesome.
So it's neat. There's a lot of them in Indiana too.
This
like
is why
Indiana.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
This is why I think I have an issue with Bigfoot, though. I am a woods person. I am out in the woods all the freaking time. I live in Bigfoot country. Okay?
Yeah.
See,
I have never once seen any sight of a Bigfoot track, a Bigfoot knock, a Bigfoot wail, any of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, that sucks.
But how long did you, like, where did we used to live, Kayla?
Okay, we used to live in Alberta, Canada.
And what have you never seen?
And I have never seen a moose in the wild. I get that. Okay?
Have you ever seen signs of a moose?
We were also in moose country. And I never seen any signs of a moose or a moose in the wild. And I get I get what you're saying. It just feels like with the amount of time I spend in the woods around here, that I should have seen some kind of something.
not necessarily.
No.
I'll tell you, like, I think that it happens when it's like meant to happen in a way. Like this what Jed was saying, he was like, they come out at 10 o'clock, and then otherwise at midnight to 12:30, like 3 o'clock in the morning, apparently they're always out. and he was showing me all of this, data. I mean, he's it's just basically research and data to me. I mean, he had all these recordings for probably 20 years on his phone. It was just like crazy. And he was showing me stuff before that. He even told me that they'll knock on trees for communication, and he'll hear them from 3 to more miles away regarding where this creek or river is.
They've got their own system for communication.
Yeah, and he says that it's all like based when they start kind of doing the hibernation is when he'll hear it. And he says it's like August through October, and then it's just dead. But when he comes out with the dogs is when they start to do this roar stuff, because he says, you're in my territory. Like, that's what they're saying. You're in my territory. So go inside, get out. And his theory was when we were on the porch talking, even though we weren't really loud, he said that they were bothered by us because we were in their territory. They were just starting to come out at night, he said. I mean, this man knew so much stuff. It was crazy.
I got a question for you. Were you laughing? Were you playing music?
No, we weren't playing any music. Cindy was like, the sister was telling a story, and we were both quiet, just listening to her. I mean, I will say she is kind of, louder, but I don't think she was still that crazy loud. You know what I mean?
What kind of story?
He was just passionate. Gosh, I can't even really remember I think she was talking about somebody like snubbing her at work or something like that. It was a work related story where she was a little, ticked off, like how she had the nerve to do that to me like that. And it was kind of like that, but she wasn't, I wouldn't say insanely loud, but to them, maybe. I mean, dogs here, like what, 10 times or something is like louder than we do. They also go off of frequency. They go off of energy and frequency. If they were picking up on her anger level, her hostile,
that may have very easily have triggered their stuff. Can't hear you, Robert. You're muted.
Maybe that they were maybe they were showing empathy. Maybe they're like, yeah, that jackass.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like I felt it. It felt like an angry tension staring you down and a hunting from across the street. I never saw it. I just felt it. But I've gone in that area. I told you guys this other story that I think I was brought to this elementary school in the middle of Nowheresville, Amish country. And they were like, hey, get out of the car and tell us what is here. And I wouldn't get out of the car. It was elementals that were not nice. And I saw a little Indian by this creek. And then I also I felt like it was fairies or something. So I just stayed. I was like, I'm not doing this. No, you guys should have never built on this land. They're clearly saying it's theirs. I'm not even getting out of the car. I don't need any kind of attack. I felt like it was attacking. This felt the same kind of hostile way, but worse because it was real dread. Get the heck out of here. This is your only warning. You will have a few seconds. That's it. Now, Jed said that he went outside all the time and he never felt threatened. He was they're kind of mad at the dogs. They really particularly got mad at the dogs barked. They would start roaring. And then, of course, the dogs would start barking more. But he was never scared. And he said that he could be in the backyard. He could be on the driveway, and they never came close enough to do anything. They would just make a ton of sounds. And he said that sometimes he'd go on the porch and just hear them knocking on the trees just to hear it. He had recordings of doot, 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 just on trees. And you could hear different tones that they were far apart or closer. It was wild. It was so crazy.
Have you ever heard the Sierra Sounds, Rosella?
Sierra Mountains or?
It's a recording called the Sierra Sounds.
It's Bigfoot noises.
Oh,
it's
okay.
actually really cool. They're talking to each other.
Oh.
It's from early 1970s when a gentleman who I met once, I can't think of his, Ron Moorhead. Thank you. Yeah. but Ron Moorhead and a couple of other guys were out camping in the California woods, and they had recording equipment. I don't remember why. And they got recordings of Bigfoot, numerous Bigfoot, talking to each other, making all kinds of sounds, and then they started talking to them. The humans started talking to the Sasquatch, and it's called the Sierra Sounds.
Okay. I will, Google it.
I'll see if I can put, because a number of shows actually, Spaced Out Radio does it, so does, I think, Bigfoot Michigan. I've got to get into my account because I can't think of all the different names at this second, but there's a number of people who have played them on YouTube, and they are worth listening to. See if I can call up the two names that I've been trying to remember right now.
Al Barrow?
Say that again?
Or Al Berry? Or Al Berry and Ron Moorhead.
Yes, yeah, that sounds right.
Because that's the link I just put into the chat here.
Yeah.
I'll put the link into the other chat too, so that people can hear them. There we go, folks.
And here is...
Hey, Ange.
Hi, Ange.
Hey.
Nikki, I have a feeling this is one of your listeners.
Hey, yes, it is. Ange. Aussie Ange. How you doing, sweetie? Let's see. Wait, this, that's Dr. Melba Ketch.
Cole, don't you have some Bigfoot stories?
Well, so...
I swear you've talked to me about some of this before.
Not all of them are actually Bigfoot. Like, one of my favorites is the fact that when they were filming Star Wars, the gentleman who plays Chewbacca had to wear... when they were filming the third Star Wars film, or the sixth, if you're a fan, they had to... When they were filming the scenes of Endor, or the moon of Endor, they actually had to
wear yellow vests.
Yeah, he had to wear a yellow vest. Peter Mayhew, I think. His name.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he had to wear a yellow like one of the workers' vests.
Safety vest.
Because he was shot at 3 times.
Because people thought he was Bigfoot. That was filmed in Washington State, in the Pacific Northwest.
It was filmed in the Olympic Peninsula.
Now, here's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize. There is a county up north of me that it's illegal to hunt Sasquatch.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
No.
And I get called out on the carpet for this statement that I make. There used to be, I don't know if there still are, army maps given out to military where they had different, quote unquote, predators to watch out for across the United States. When they were on maneuvers, practice maneuvers. And Bigfoot, I was going to say Yeti, that's not what I mean. Bigfoot and skunk ape and all of them were listed.
Skunk ape, that's what I think what they call it in maybe Kentucky. I can't remember. But
Florida, they call it the eye glows in Kentucky. Yeah. The Kentucky eye glows.
Oh, okay.
Friend.
Now there is the hall. I talked to you about that before, I think, Kayla, where I was with Barry and Melvin.
Yeah.
And we were sitting on the porch, and we saw that ghost train, right? But they were telling me several stories about how they just saw Bigfoot walk out pretty much from the left where that cemetery kind of was, and it was a small little wooded kind of cemetery, like was surrounded by woods, and then the rest was like kind of like this open field that is, still being used today. But they would just see it walk out of there, like out of the corn, and walk back in, like pretty much like pretty far. It was probably about like more than 50 feet of a walk, and then walk back into the corn. Now, I never saw it, but it's on my podcast, too. When we were sitting on the front porch, they were telling me a lot of stories about that. If anybody's interested in hearing their stories, because it's a long time ago. I can't remember much.
Oh, Barry had some good ones on Bigfoot. For sure.
Yeah. That was crazy. Yeah. So, this area is pretty vast of them.
Yeah.
I do, my dad told me one tonight, actually.
Oh, yeah.
A young guy who was a young avid hunter, but he wasn't hunting at this time. He was scouting. So he wasn't carrying a rifle. He was instead carrying a 6-shooter. And in Canada, you can carry handguns as long as you were licensed for them. And our licensing is a lot more stringent than the United States. So, but he was walking down a trail, and he actually came face to face with a Bigfoot, and they were probably about 50 feet away from each other.
Now, is this in Alberta or is this Saskatchewan?
This is right on the Alberta-BC line.
Oh, okay.
And he actually pulled his gun and shot about 10 feet above the Bigfoot's head.
Jeez.
Because he was scared.
Yeah.
And then the guy, in a moment of gaining the biggest brass balls in the world, decided to follow him after the thing ran away.
Oh my God. What the hell?
You're going to shoot because you're scared, and then you're going to follow him.
That's the widest thing I've ever heard.
Oh, wow.
He wasn't able to find him again.
Well,
but he heard him crashing through the thing, but he did see him up close. Well, 50 feet I would consider up close. But, yeah. So, it just goes to show that we have dumb people everywhere.
Now, my mom told me about her Bigfoot sighting. So when she was younger, she had several brothers and sisters. There were 7 of them. And they were up in eastern Washington, just outside of Cleellum area. And they were all in the back of my grandpa's pickup truck. And they were going to get wood, because they were staying at a campground and doing fires and stuff. And they were driving up towards Liberty area, if anybody knows that. And they said that they saw a Bigfoot come down, stand by a log, and then squat below the log like it was trying to hide itself from being seen. And then stand up again and then take off back into the woods. Like it was a little clearing area where they had just logged it. And yeah, that's her story about seeing Bigfoot. And all of her siblings will tell you the same exact story. They all saw the same thing.
Wow.
My grandfather saw the same thing, and my grandmother saw the same thing.
Yeah, the entire family saw.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other one I was trying to think of.
Friend,
Bigfoot Central with Duke.
the only other one my dad told me tonight wasn't really a Bigfoot story. It was just, we decided it was fucking hilarious.
Okay.
Friend, every town has this bar. You know that one bar that never really changes? You never want to walk into because it's you feel like the moment you touch that door handle, you already have syphilis.
Yeah, I sure do.
So every town has that bar.
I won't go anymore.
In Drumheller, ours is called the Waldorf. And we started talking this because my dad asked me
like, when's the last time you went into the Waldorf? And I said, well, I haven't really stepped foot in there since I was almost 18 years old. And, like, we used to go in a lot when I was 17 and 16 because it was the last place in the Drumheller area that had a cigarette vending machine. And they never really looked at who was using it. Friend. So, but we were talking about it, and Dad said, yeah, if you honestly saw a Bigfoot come out of the place, that would be the least weird thing you'd see walk out of that building that day. I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's true. That's true for almost every bar that's like that. Right?
Oh my!
Like, if you saw a Bigfoot, you'd be like, hey, a normal thing is coming out. Like,
I could tell you that bar in Cedro. No.
That's so funny.
I bet you
I
Nikki
love it.
could
That's a
too.
great comparison.
Now, the only time I've ever physically seen Bigfoot was the weekend. It was August of 2019, excuse me. And we were coming back from being at Mount Baker. It was the weekend, the weekend where all kinds of hell went on, and some very fascinating things. And I literally, that was the weekend that I talked to Mama Sasquatch. I talked to two of her lower downs because their specific clan is a matriarchal clan. And I guess not all. I was under the impression that many Sasquatch clans were matriarchal because of how I was spoken to and because of what I was told by them. But I also asked them before they left and stopped talking to me that night, I would love to be able to see you. I'd love to be able to see Mama. And I was allowed to have that happen. They knew where I was on a specific road coming out of Mount Baker, and I'm in the passenger seat, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I went, shut your mouth, Nikki, shut your mouth, because the person driving doesn't believe in any of this. Just went, oh my God. And I clammed up after that, and I remember thinking in my head, because I was trying to be telepathic with her, I kept thinking, thank you so much. And then then the tears started happening because I was so excited and yet at the same time so blown away that I would be allowed to see one of them. And she was huge. I mean, she was just huge, huge, huge. But I was also at a pretty good distance, and she was blonde. She was not, she did not have brown hair. She was a blonde Sasquatch. And big, very big. Of course, she was also and I was on the road, and you have this little hill, and then this divot, and then it came up, so you came up the hill, like this, and then it pitted down again, and then leveled out, and then went down where the road curved around. And so I got to see her in two ways. I got to see her as we were coming around the curve, and I got to see her as she's walking, and she turns around and then turns back around and then continues on walking. And as we come around the road and come around this way of that little hill area, I'm looking back. I'm like holding onto this inside of the car, stretching as far as my back and my body will allow me at the time. And I'm looking, going, wow. And I can't. And then I start taking the mirror down off of the rear view, the visor. And I'm looking in the mirror and going, oh, she's beautiful. And she's so cool. And I go, what are you looking at? Just something I just saw. It was really cool. Because what do you say to somebody who doesn't believe?
Yeah.
Well, so
but it was just incredible, and the tears just started coming in, and it was like, wow, I was just so overwhelmed, and I knew it was because it was a completely open gravel area. where this Sasquatch was. There was no trees around. There were trees, but they were really far away. So this was like a gravel or quarry area that I saw her in, and it was within about another 20 minutes. Dusk would have been hitting, or about 22 minutes, because I've got it written in my notes as to what time and how it all came about. The whole matter of fact, a rock had been thrown. I hadn't talked about this in a long time. A very, very large rock had been thrown onto when we were driving through there the first time. And I'm like, where did that rock come from? Because as we were driving by, I'm looking off this way because we're going up into the mountain. And this large rock came out of nowhere, and I thought we were going to end up hitting it. Because if you hit that rock, it's a good sized rock. If you hit that, that's going to divert you. And there wasn't much on the other side of that road, but trees and a cliff. And I'm like, don't want to go over that edge. But it landed. And when we were driving back, there was no sign of that rock. 3 days later, there was no sign of that rock. I looked for it, and we drove back through that area at least well, technically, I guess it would be 4, because we drove up there, came back for a specific purpose because we were meeting some people somewhere, drove back again, but it was late at night. I didn't pay attention that night. And when we were driving back to come out of there, before dusk, there was no rock.
Huh.
There was no rock there, and it was a big rock, and it was on the white line. It literally landed on the white line, and the person that was driving caught it out of the corner of their eye and was like, "What the hell was that?" And I'm like, "A rock just came down," and he's looking at in the rearview mirror, going, "Yeah, I'm seeing that," as he's trying to make sure that he's got his eyes on the road, and I was just like, whoa. It was a mind bender, because when I put it all together, I was like, holy shit. Somebody wanted our attention, and it was deliberate for me, is how I take it and how I looked at it. But that was my experience that weekend. Well, that was one of many.
That's what I was going to actually say. Don't you think that? See, I was the one who actually felt, the dread and the feeling of that. And when I asked them, they were like, no at first. And then finally the sister said, well, now that you say it. And I think it's because everything went silent, like in the night. That when I said that, they were like, well, now that you say that, it is kind of different now, isn't it? Like, when I made them evaluate. Otherwise, I think she would have kept talking about it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But, and then like what happened with my son probably is just like a happenstance kind of thing.
I think it's.
But there has been moments where I've been driving along the road and all of a sudden I'm like, I feel like something's going to pop out at me, like that kind of thing. And I don't know if other people can feel it too, or if we're more sensitive to it.
I think it's because you guys are more open. Because I've had 3 instances where I think I saw something. But the problem is the moment that I feel like that, my logical side of my mind automatically trying to fill it with something that it has to be.
Yeah.
That makes
Which
sense.
is normal. That's normal. That's natural and normal.
So when
we don't want it to be.
When you're not, your mind isn't open, even and not on purpose, but because I try and be very open, but everything I do is very logical. Every direction I take is completely based off logic.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken me a long time to. I mean, the one time that I did. Okay, here's an important thing. The one time that I did not pay attention, we were in a horrible auto accident.
Mm,
Horrible auto
I've
accident.
had those moments, not that bad, but
And
yeah.
we had another person's child with us. And we literally, I had this like black, what I used to call black tar death feeling. And we were exchanging kids basically at the time. And because I was watching somebody's kid for a short amount of time this one day. And we were like, oh, where are you going to be in the afternoon? And we'll just trade, give you her and all this other stuff. So we came walking out of this store. The four of us come walking out of the store, and all of a sudden I got this black tar dread feeling. And it was in November. I don't remember what year right now. And it was in the 90s. And because we had the van at the time. And we used to camp in that van all over Washington State. And the mom showed up and she got her daughter. I bypassed that black tar death feeling, and I was just hooted. I wouldn't listen. And because of not listening, instead of waiting another 2 minutes, because that's essentially when I went back over it, that's essentially what it took place, was another 2 minutes. If it had been 2 minutes later, we would not have had that accident. And it would have been a completely different ballgame. But anyway, that's what took place. We ended up 2 minutes later, we're out of the parking lot and we are T-boned. And the thing is we crossed visions. The driver and we crossed, this person wasn't there. Okay, so pay attention. 1 second he wasn't there, the next second he was. And this was a retired police officer. And I still remember them. I often think about them because it was he and his wife, they were on their like 29th or 30th wedding anniversary on a date, basically.
Oh no.
I cried for them. I cried for us. We all ended up in the hospital, in the ER. So pay attention to, and we were all eventually fine. Pay attention to your gut instincts. When you've got something like that and you know that it's that negative and that detriment, pay attention.
The bad thing is that there's sometimes you can do something about it and sometimes you can't. Like,
very true.
I think I told you, Nikki, that story about when I was younger. I was on the bus. I mean, this is like really, I was young. And this girl who I did not like, her mother, I didn't like her very much, got onto the bus and they started talking about how she said specifically that she was going to take the car out for the first time today. And I knew right then and there that she would be hit and killed. I knew. And there's nothing you could do. And I'd have to say that wasn't like my first instinct at all, but it was the first one that, like, even talking about now, actually, I just feel like my adrenaline going because it's just so god awful. There's nothing that you can do.
Glenn Roberts got a story like that too.
Awful.
I mean, it's really difficult when we don't, when we don't listen to ourselves, our own gut instinct, but yet at the same time, there are times where we are not able, and you're exactly right. There are times we are not there. Some things are supposed to happen. And I don't like calling it meant to be because that person is gone out of our lives. That is a loved one. That
She's
is
only 16.
Yeah, I mean, it is really. But when you look at it as a psychic and a medium, and you look at it from the other side's point of view as to what was everybody in that person's life supposed to learn from this experience? And is there some kind of law that can get changed? Is what is supposed to take place? And people don't recognize that.
Yeah.
And as
I
medium,
understand.
when you're dealing with death on a regular basis, whether it doesn't matter whose death, it doesn't matter if it's for a client or if it's your own loved one. What a lot of people don't recognize and realize is that, and as much as I love my mother and I did not want her in the kind of pain and trauma that she went through, I got told last year, actually a year and a half ago, so 2023, end of 2023, I got told by the other side, your mom is doing this so that you learn that. And I remember sitting on my bed crying because it really hit me very hard. It was, she made a choice to do something to where I would learn specific information by what she was doing now, and that was how she chose in her soul. And I was like, gloves are off. I'm like,
I kind of had one of those. Yeah, it was my grandmother who passed. I got lectured. You're not open. You're not open enough. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is what I do for my job. And they're like, yeah, but what about you? You're not open for you. And we're coming over to hit you on the head, kind of. And I'm like, oh. It was when I was really sick and I needed to be told what to do. Yeah.
We've got to pay attention. And when we don't, there are consequences when we don't. And it's if we can save, and you and I are both, and I know Robert is very much that way. If we can save a life, we will. We will go out of the way. We will bend over backwards to make sure that that life is safe because of what we have experienced in our past.
It's so true. Yeah.
Because we know what it feels like. We know we've been there. We've gone through it already. And this is way off the subject of Bigfoot and all of that. But I wanted to make a point. Listen to everybody. Listen to your gut instinct. Yeah. Ange is a phenomenal psychic. I mean, she's awesome too. I mean, so we all know you have to listen to your instinct. And when you don't, there's going to be consequences. Do I honestly believe that accident, that vehicle accident could have been prevented? Yeah, I do. If I had listened and had, because I'd gone back, oh my God, I went back over this time and time and time again. And I was like, this really honestly could have been prevented if I had paid attention and listened. And the thing is that the fact that that vehicle wasn't there, and then it in a blink of an eye. I mean, there were vehicles so far up that road for the other driver to be where he was at that given second in time. He was flying. But at the same time, it's still messed up. So, and my kid at the time, I think he was 5 years old, I think. And we were hit where he was sitting.
Oh no.
So I lost, as a parent, I lost my ever-loving shit. I mean, I didn't give two shits about I was like, no, my kid gets first. No one touches my kid. And so you pay attention. I've had to learn the very hard way. And as everybody has the ability to have gut instincts on
intuition.
Things. Intuition, and we have to pay attention. Because if we don't, other things that are not necessarily need to happen. And unfortunately, I didn't pay attention. So even though our eyes were crisscrossing on 2 specific occasions, I mean, he's this way, that way, I'm this way, that way, and we're crossing again. And it's just like, wow, how did we miss this person? Well, it's because he was speeding, but at the same time, so pay attention, folks. Pay attention to what your instinct is, because it can come into play.
Yeah.
An important.
Now, I'll tell you, and Cole can vouch for this one, and it happens very, very rarely, but every once in a while, it'll be something really stupid, like we'll be driving down the freeway, and I'll, like, have almost a mini panic attack, and I'm like, Cole, you gotta get over into the other lane, you gotta get over into the other lane, do it fucking now! Like, I get, like, angry about it. And
I was waiting for you to say something.
He'll do something like move over, like this particular time, he moved over into the other lane and was like, there, are you happy? And then an 18-wheeler, like, went sideways in the lane.
No, it slammed its brakes in front of us.
Yeah. But with me, I don't get so much for, like, accidents and stuff, but I have, like, premonitions about people. So when something about that person strikes me really wrong, I'll, like, have this, like...
Oh, you mean, like, is it that person? Or, like, when you meet them vibe? Or
Yes. So when somebody introduces themselves to me, every once in a while I'll get, like, almost a shiver down my back, like there's something really, really wrong with this person. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to explain it, but there's something that's not okay about this person, and I need to distance myself from them, and so should my husband and my entire family. Like, we need to not be associated with this person, because I don't know what the hell it is, but I call it, like, the Hitler complex. Like, when you meet somebody and all of a sudden you, like, just see evil in that person, and you don't really understand what the evil is, but you know it's there.
Yeah.
Well, and
you can't put your finger on it.
The thing is, with Kayla, it's more than that, too. Because we had this conversation a few days ago. Friend, she lives her life on blind faith.
Oh, absolutely. I don't care what happens tomorrow. I know it's going to happen. I'm like, whatever. Yeah.
Everything I do is a cold, calculated decision, and if I make up my mind on something, you better be able to prove me 100% wrong, or I'm not changing my decision. Because I have thought about the decision, and I have made the best logical choice. But that's why, like, when I think I see something, the logical part of my brain just takes over and runs it off.
Well, it's funny because, like, when I was saying, like, to you guys earlier with that Bigfoot story, the first one with my son, and, I kept saying, like, I was trying to wrap my mind around it. Am I really seeing this? The logical side tries to, like, really kick in. But the real thing is, like, this isn't a logical moment here, so we need to get past it so we can actually save you,
Yeah.
That made me think a lot, especially when I was writing the story, like, a few days ago.
And that's the thing, most of my experiences happen while I'm driving, and while I'm driving down South Skagit with Nikki, that's not the best road to be thinking on. It has more curves than a Kardashian. And friend, and these ones are natural. Let's put it that way. But the last couple times I saw something, I had to let the logical part of my mind take over, because I didn't have time to think that's what I really saw and accept it. Because I'm about to hit the side of a mountain.
Yep. That area is a little freaky. There's a lot of really crazy shit that happens on South Skagit, and there's been a lot of reports from a lot of people of seeing all kinds of things on that road. Like, it's creepy.
Like, what the heck have you seen?
Well, yeah, God, like 2 days ago. Well, hold on, 2 days ago, I came around a corner and there was a cop there and a tow truck, and I couldn't figure out why until I looked into the ditch, and tucked into the ditch to the point where you can't almost see it is a Kia. And like, it flipped over and the wrong way. She flipped, like whoever it was, they flipped so well and then slid into the perfect spot. I don't know how they got out of the car.
Jeez.
Like, and then like.
Wait a minute. You're talking South Skagit and Burlington, right?
No, it's South Skagit Highway
from
up to
Congress.
Congress.
Highway.
Yeah.
Highway. Okay, sorry. Yes, I know what you're talking about now.
Okay.
All right. I was like, wait a minute.
Okay.
Because I knew that there were two South Skagits, and I'm like, yeah, one's curved and one's not.
Yeah.
So in the
Sorry,
last
one.
Okay, so two stories I got that are just fucking crazy on South Skagit. One, that's where me and Cole were driving, and you go from like our place, you go down South Skagit, you go through a place called Day Creek, and then you go into like either Cedro Woolley or into Mount Vernon from the end of South Skagit.
Yeah.
Okay. We were driving, and it was early in the morning. He was taking me to work, and all of a sudden we were on, Fruitdale?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Oh.
No, sorry. Francis.
Francis Road. We were on Francis Road, but don't remember ever going through the roundabout there. Don't remember going through Day Creek. Don't remember any of that part of the drive
We
at
traveled
all.
Yeah.
18 miles without knowing
I was
it.
going to say
Yeah.
how long.
It was about 18 to 20 miles of driving that didn't happen. Neither of us could recall anything during that period of time.
And the only reason that we noticed it was because when we got to the area on Francis Road we were at, I looked out towards Kayla's window and saw a huge, like 200 swans fly up. And I looked at her and I said, "How are we here?"
How did we get here already? And I said, I have no idea. I was going to ask you the same thing. Like, we shouldn't even be in Day Creek yet. Like, it was super weird. So that happened on South Skagit. Now,
And that's a 20-minute drive, you said, right?
yeah.
I mean, that's a long time.
And it's okay if Kayla does that. It's not okay for me to do that.
No,
I'm driving.
Driving.
Yeah. So how hungover were you?
Not at all.
Cole does
Friend.
not
I'm
drink.
joking.
Yeah, I haven't had a drink in,
God, years.
no.
No, actually, you had one at Candace's party or whatever, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so that was only a few months ago. But yeah, Cole seriously probably drinks maybe 1-2 beers a year. Okay, he's that person.
That's kind
No, I
of
was joking. Because that's like, the question you always get. So, are you drunk? I'm like,
Yeah,
well, no, that's all. That's all.
So, the other thing that happened on South Skagit that was really, really freaking weird is it was really late at night. Like, I'm talking like 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's early in the morning.
Well, you know what I mean. And we were driving back. I can't even remember where we were, but we were driving back. And it was super, super dark out. And then it got really, really bright. Like, it was the middle of the day, bright out. And we were driving, and probably for about 2-3 miles, in this super bright, middle of the day sunshine, like bright. And then we kind of looked at each other, looked back at the road, and it was pitch black again.
Like, you know how they describe it when a nuke goes off in the distance?
God. Yeah.
That's an ET abductee. That's an abduction.
Someone was getting probed.
Loud.
But I'm telling you, like, there's weird shit that happens to us all the time on South Skagit. All the time.
Well, I'm going to ask, like, with that daylight thing, the sun brightness, did you guys lose time there or no?
I don't
you look at
even
the
really know. To be perfectly honest, I don't know. Because it was so late, we were already tired. It was like one of those things where you're just like, okay, let's get home so we can go to sleep because we gotta wake up.
Yeah, I don't know
tomorrow.
if we lost time, but I remember the entire drive on that one.
Yeah, we remember like going and we remember going, but then it was just like bright out, like somebody had just turned on the sun for a few minutes, and then it was like pitch black again and middle of the night, and I was like, and we were just kind of like, yeah, that happened. Yeah, that definitely happened. We're like, yep, we need to get home now.
That's exactly what happened with my mom and I in the van, in the van that Mom and I used to call Big Bertha.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Honestly, like things
night, exactly what happened.
like in the daytime, it could be like a clear sky. Usually, it's no clouds. Like I could be on my bike. I could be, because I'm an avid like bike rider, but I could be biking. I could be driving the car, and it usually only happens when I'm kind of moving like on something, not like when I'm walking down the road. But I feel like sometimes like, okay, did I blink? Because I'll see something kind of like that where it feels like a blinking moment where it just shoots out really bright off of my like like the side vision.
Right.
It's usually on my left side, and I don't know why, but I'm like, I just thought like, maybe it's got to be that I blinked. And it's been happening a lot more. And I'll see like in the darkness, like it looks like kind of like like only way I can describe it is like lightning in a way, like thunderbolts, kind of lightning. Sometimes it could be in my house, it could be anywhere, but it's in the dark. Things like that, I could see something like that, and I wonder if it's like I'm blinking. But I've had like some people tell me like, oh, well, it's your own spiritual energy that you're doing that in your house. You're creating it, that kind of thing.
Okay, I'm gonna say something here. What Cole and Kayla were talking about, I'm getting yapped at ET abduction. What you're talking about, Rosella, I have had, and
I think you said that you've had that. Yeah.
It's hierarchies, and they're around you more.
Oh.
And they're creating that white light that you can actually see. Okay, you're seeing it via your psychic eyes. It feels like that, yeah. Not necessarily. Okay, it's hard to explain because I don't know exactly how to say this. On one level, you're seeing it physically through your physical eyes. On another level, you're seeing it through your psychic eyes. And not just the one eye, but both of them. And they're combining together. What happens with me is that they combine together, and it's almost like seeing a white halo behind you. And you feel them, but yet you can also see the white in the peripherals. It is not a physical vision issue or a medical issue. It is actually the hierarchies. And there have been times when I've actually been tapped, well, usually tapped on the neck or the sides of the shoulders. Over here where you can't see. I'm a big girl.
Yeah. That too.
But yeah, so there's that aspect of it. And
it was just like fast. So fast.
Yeah.
And it's usually my left eye that I feel like I just see it more, like it's when I'm driving a car or riding my bike, and I could be anywhere. It would not even matter. Usually when you're moving.
Logically, you want to have medically checked out just to rule everything out.
Well, I actually did. I asked my eye doctor, and she said, I've never heard of anybody asking me that. But she knows what I do, and she's like, I think that what you're seeing is angel related. I'm going to stay out of that because I'm not the expert. But I'm like, okay, at least I'm not crazy.
Okay, so explain to me then, if this is like angel stuff happening, right? Because I get the exact opposite of that, where I will see dark. Not like a bright light or anything like that, but I'll get like in my peripheral vision, or I'll get in my front vision. Sometimes everything like will be like
You mean like a shadow?
like almost a shadow going by.
Well, if they're getting the upside, so
Well, that's what I'm
angels in
saying.
heaven,
Okay, so am
you're
I like
getting
seeing
the
all
other
these like
guys.
freaky demons?
No.
Some
No,
shit?
because
Actually, it's gotta
I've
be
had that too.
spirits.
I've had that too. I have that in my house. I have 2 specific spirits, and even the dog notices it periodically now. But
Mm.
and usually I'll catch them. They'll walk by, off the peripherals, and I'm like, you again. Like, okay, what is it? And they're not wanting anything.
Yeah.
They're just walking around. But that's their energy, and that's how they show up. They show up as shadow people, but shadow people have a very negative connotation attached to that word or that phrase or term, I suppose I should say.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just a manifesting energy thing.
Yeah, because that is how they specifically manifest their energy. Others, I mean, they just can't manifest it any other way.
I also will see like
There's
a
that.
gold
Mm-hmm.
shadow
Gold?
type thing. Yeah, it's like a bright gold.
Oh, those are angels.
Yeah.
Angels in white is that like the white and the gold, or it could be white with an outline of gold. It's
or
angels.
even silver.
Yeah, I've never seen the silver, but like people will ask me all the time, am I crazy? I'm seeing this like an outline of a figure. Because Saint Philomena appears to my daughter like that. And then like at the beginning, and then she started appearing to her like you just described, Kayla, with like the shadow figure kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll see her as a shadow figure, but she'll see her move and she feels her expressions. Like she feels if she's happy or she's angry, kind of cross with her. It's usually when she shows up is when my daughter's done something wrong, you know. So she kind of minds her through doing that. But yeah, like what you're kind of describing, I have seen like at the very beginning when I was doing paranormal investigations, like in historic houses and going in, like, you know, writing about the stuff that would happen mostly, I'd see a lot of that. I think I might have told you guys even like, was I telling you guys a week ago or something that I was in this hallway and this one guy saw a bat fly by me on one side on the left, but I was looking on the right and there's a huge shadow figure. I mean, this thing was like probably 10, 11 feet tall because I'm pretty short, but it was like crazy thin tall, running like a marathon down the, like, you know, the hallway and just dissipated like, and as it hit the wall, that used to not really be there because it used to be a continuing like staircase. It hit the wall. You could see like almost like powder as it hit the wall. It just looked like powder filling the air with like this black dust that went to the floor. So I've seen a lot of weird crap, but that could be like what you're seeing, and it's usually a manifestation issue.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys something else that's really, really weird that I see. And one of the main reasons I really hate it. And I actually did talk to a medical professional because I thought, like, I must have some kind of mental something going on. Like, I don't know, you need to test me and see if I have, like, some kind of schizophrenia or there's something wrong. Like, but I'll ask,
I thought that was myself, the blinking.
Mirrors and reflections, okay? So when you look at a mirror or you have your mirrors and your reflections, I'll see myself and I look like myself. I'm like, fine, I'm me, whatever. But sometimes the things around me are distorted or wrong.
This is why you're afraid of mirrors.
That's aphasia. Oh my God. Aphasia. APHASIA.
Yeah.
It's a visual thing. It's a vision thing. I knew somebody that had
Okay, but I mean, like, they have tested me for everything. Everything under the sun I've been tested for. Because I do have a lot of stuff, like, in my family lineage that's a little bit off. And I also have a lot of medical issues myself. So anytime I bring up something where I'm like, dude, this is really weird, like they do full battery, like every test you can possibly think of to rule out, like, honestly, to rule out brain tumors and different things like that, because I have a history of cancers in my family and in myself and all that. But
Well,
they have never found anything that would explain that, like, at all. And I mean, I've gone through like a battery of tests.
what is it, Nikki? Like, definition of what is that? Aphasia.
Oh God, I don't know the exact definition of it, but the basically it's where you. Oh God, I gotta look up the proper term. Because I can't get my brain to operate. Hang on a second. Aphasia. Aphasia. Okay, also known as dysphagia, is an impairment in a person's ability to comprehend or formulate. Okay, this is a form of language, but there's visual forms of it as well. Okay, so I'm going to read the rest of this. This is off of, the hell is this? I think it's Google. Also known as dysphagia, is an impairment in a person's ability to comprehend or formulate language because of damage to specific brain regions. The major causes are stroke and head trauma. Prevalence is hard to determine, but aphasia due to stroke is estimated to be 0.1 to 0.4% in developed countries. Now, here's the thing with the person that I knew. She had a very rare form of visual. Okay, the other word is, hang on a second. Gotta look up the other one. I don't talk about this all that often. Okay, agnosia is a neurological disorder characterized by an inability to process sensory information. Often there is a loss of ability to recognize objects, persons, sounds, shapes, or smells, while the specific sense is not defective, nor is there any significant memory loss.
Yeah, what you're looking for, Nikki, is apperceptive visual agnosia. Difficulty organizing visual information into coherent perception.
Yeah, that's the one I wasn't gonna say, but yeah, that's what this person had, and theirs was specifically from how they were birthed out of the womb using tongs back in Germany. They thought she was going to be she was a United States citizen, but her family was military, and she was born in Germany on a military base. And they thought they were delivering a dead baby.
Oh God!
And so the forceps were used, and it damaged her brain because they grabbed onto the baby's head a very specific way, and they literally thought that they were delivering a dead baby. So, but my point is that when there's damage in the brain, and this is the reason why I was bringing it up, is because I learned so much from this woman who was in my life for 20 some odd years. I think she's still alive. She and I are no longer friends, and there are reasons for that. But my point in talking about this is that there are different sections of the brain where what you're describing, Kayla, can be, it can be tested, but that kind of stuff is usually, people thought this woman was nuts. Brilliant woman. She was not nuts by any stretch of the frickin' imagination. She literally had a neurological disability because of what happened to her at birth. But because of this woman, I learned about the Brain Association I don't remember if it's the Washington Brain Association or Brain Association of Washington. Anyway, because of her, I learned about them, and because of them, I learned about different things that happen within the brain, whether it's from a stroke, whether it's form of brain cancer or cancer on the brainstem or somewhere in or on the brain, and how that can affect different synapses. It's specific to synapses. And I learned so much because of this woman. So, and even though we're no longer friends, I'm still very appreciative for the fact of all the information that I learned from her. I quite honest. Well, anyway, that's a whole nother subject. But yeah, so it's a visual thing. But with her specific thing, she could literally put something down from walking in the front door. Say, oh, I need to get this. Focus on that one thing, and then turn around and realize, oh, but I need to get the item that I just picked or I just set down. She would literally turn around and could not see any of it. Where she had put it, it was like blindness. It was like an object blindness type of thing. And it was fascinating, and it was fascinating for me to watch because I learned so much, but it was incredibly frustrating for her, and I can understand why. I mean, it was just a mind bender as to how she had to live her life.
Slight case of Broca's aphasia. And it wasn't slight when I was having the stroke, I'll tell you that fucking much. Because I was talking and I thought I was doing great. No one could understand a word I was going to get saying.
Okay.
Even now, like, you guys will catch me sometimes where you'll have to correct me because I say something and it does not come out the way it's supposed to.
Or it takes him longer to say something. Like, there's pauses in between things where there wasn't before.
No, that's just because I'm waiting for you guys to catch up. Don't even.
Well, Kayla, does that, like, make sense to you, though? Like, have you had a stroke or anything like that? Like,
No, that's what I'm saying, is that, no, I've never had a stroke.
It can also be caused by
like
TBI.
a head injury? A concussion?
Yeah, traumatic brain injury.
Now, that's a possibility. I mean, I've slammed my head into so many things, it's not even funny. No, I used to have seizures that were caused by the cancer and everything.
Yeah.
So
I wondered that, yeah.
I mean, like, it's possible, like, that I smacked my head somewhere and it gave me, like, a little, like, pinprick TBI or something. But nothing's ever come up on any of my, like, head scans or anything like that. Like, I have
MRI. Had a full MRI?
Yeah, I've had MRIs. I've had MRIs with contrast. I've had CT scans. I've had whole body scans, like everything else. And nothing's ever come up in my brain except for the squid that they took out.
The problem is, but MRIs only actually take pictures of the lobes and...
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, is there could totally be some kind of...
Another main cause of aphasia is seizures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's possible.
Right.
What is it when it's a specific kind of MRI where they literally go level by level, layer by layer by layer by layer of the brain?
Yeah.
That's an MRI, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is just an MRI. But it can't actually tell you every synapses that is firing.
Yeah, well, it says the overall picture, it does overall damage and stuff like that, but if there's like a small pinprick damage or something of that nature, it's not going to really show up on there.
Now, the other thing is to look in, the other thing that I know about is look into mineral and vitamin deficiencies because that can really affect the brain. Now that's not medical. Look, folks, these are our experiences.
Yeah, that's not medical advice for everybody.
No,
check with your doctor always.
Always check with your own medical team, and for God's sake, do your own research while you talk with your medical team. Because what is happening with us doesn't necessarily mean that's for you. So this is just what we're talking about is our own personal experience.
But
I was also going to say, like, I mean, do you hear music too, Kayla? Didn't you tell me that once or something? that you hear music sometimes when you're like sleeping or it wakes you up. Didn't you say that? Because I had that.
Most of the time that's actually music. Like, I mean, like Kimberly will play hers through the wall and like stuff like that, but I don't typically hear stuff. I do. Okay. Yeah, that's
Try
not entirely
spirits where
true.
they
Like,
are.
sometimes I will wake up
That
because I
today.
think that I heard something, but I always wonder if it's like part of a dream or if I don't know. Like, it's kind of like in that spacey
Okay,
period in
now
between
I'm
waking
gonna
up and going to sleep type thing.
I'm
And
gonna
that's
say
usually when I
regarding-
have it. Yeah.
Huh?
I'm gonna
That's
say
usually when I
something.
have it.
What's that?
I'm gonna say something regarding that because ETs are very, very famous for that very thing. So just an FYI,
Yeah.
if you guys really are experiencing ET abductions,
No, mine's angel music. I've actually had like I've talked to other people too about it, and they're like, "Oh, the good thing is that they." It was like I was on the Jim Harold show and stuff, and they had like this they have this group basically like a Jim Harold's virtual campfire group thing. But I put that in there because I had like a while ago, and I haven't had it for a long time. But I'll wake up to it sounds like choirs singing church, like music,
Yeah.
choirs.
Oh, nice.
And
go
it's just,
beautiful.
crazy. But I have come, like, when I finally came to terms with, like, I'm hearing angels, like, singing. It would always, like, be something that would be a sign or a message that was passed on to me, usually for somebody else, and then it would stop. But I thought I was kind of crazy too. But I got checked out by my doctor, and like, I think it's a good thing to tell people to like get checked out by your doctor. I got my vision checked out by my doctor, and I'm like, okay, does this happen to you? And she's like,
Right.
this is like a gift thing. And
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And the great thing is I have a great doctor who's accepting of that
Which
and
is hard to
open.
find. It's hard to find sometimes.
Really hard to find. Yeah. So
Yes,
keep looking for people and don't give up, get the right medical people.
No,
Be
I
That's
will.
why I just wanted to
be
ask.
your own advocate.
So that's
Really?
why I was like wondering about that because like seriously, it doesn't happen. Like if I'm just looking at a wall or if I'm looking at objects in my room or anything like that, like I never see them where they're not what they're supposed to be. It's only in a reflection state.
Okay, so do you also, when you touch objects, do you have flashes of things in your mind?
Sometimes, but not like.
Is it a memory you have or something that somebody else has had? Like,
I don't
A
know
range,
how to like totally explain that.
That is a clair. That is
It's-
one of the clairs.
It's not like memories that I've had or anything like that. Like sometimes I'll pick up something at like Goodwill or whatever. Like I'll be like walking around with my mom or whatever, and I'll pick up something, and for some reason, like a flash of a daisy will go through my head, or like something like a field in the middle of nowhere that I've never been to, and I'm like, well, that's weird, but it's
Wow.
never like
Yeah, that's
full
object. That's
things.
clair.
It's just like
Yep.
more background than anything. Like
Yeah.
I never see people. I don't see like that kind of stuff. I'll see like cityscapes, but like no people, no. You know what I mean?
Carolyn, you're psychic, dear. You're psychic. That is everything that you're describing. Those are clairs.
And the music
CLA.
stuff to me is also that kind of thing where I'll hear the other side. I could hear the music and I can hear one of the angels talking to me. And they kind of say like, in tongues where it sounds like, another language. But then like when I wake up more, like, when I was describing it, when I wake up a little bit more, come to more consciousness, it'll translate into something that I recognize as a human being, so that kind of stuff can be from that other side when you're hearing that music. And I asked because I thought you had told me something like that once before, but they told me to kind of ask you because kind of like, I guess, outing it in a little bit, but
Right.
so you're not, you don't think, hey, what is this? That kind of thing.
No. All right. So this is probably going to sound terrible here. because there are people that embrace their gifts like you guys do, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
Is there a way to just say no thanks and like give that back?
Right. Yeah.
like,
There always is. I mean,
I'm
it's a choice.
cool. I don't really want this, but you can have it. Thank you. Like,
Free will.
right? Like, is
Yeah.
there a way to make that stop so I can, like, I don't know, look in a mirror?
Well, I
No.
mean, I think that, yeah, like sometimes just be like honest with them. Be like, I don't really want to do this today. Like, I'm not comfortable with this. You know, maybe someday I will be, but not now. You know, I'll tell you when I'm comfortable. That's what I would suggest. Right, Nikki? The best?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Okay.
You can't help
Because-
something.
Because there are certain things that we're supposed to learn from it. I agree with Rosella in that you have
Right,
the
yeah.
right. You have the right to tell them.
Mhm.
Okay, but at the same time, there are things that you are supposed to be learning from those experiences, and you do have the right to tell them, look, I'm not ready for this right now. I don't know if I ever will be, but we need to take it slower, and there are certain things that I want to do. Well, if those things that you want to do, there are things that you have to overcome and break cycles and patterns from past lifetimes. For example,
Mhm.
are you afraid of fire,
Uh,
Kayla?
I'm not. I'm not afraid of fire. I'm afraid of the after effects of fire.
Okay,
If
because
that makes sense. Like,
Yes, it
people
does.
with burns honestly terrify me. That sounds horrible, and I feel
No,
really
it
bad for
doesn't.
people, but
I-
that terrifies me. But the fire
Okay.
itself doesn't.
I grew up. There's a reason I'm asking, because I received something while you were talking, and I'm like, I'm not repeating that one over airways. And that's something that I'm going to talk to you privately about. But it regards a past lifetime, and there's a reason why I was asking about the fire. I grew up with a great aunt who went running in as a teenager. Their house burned down, and there were a number of teenage children and a number of young children that she was in charge of. So they were living in a tent. This is a story. This is a story I don't talk about very often, because I've got cousins I dearly love, and these are their grandparents. Okay, so she, as a teenager, it was in the wintertime, if I remember correctly from the story that I was told repeatedly throughout my lifetime. She went in to save the child because the tent went up in flames. It was a canvas tent back in the day.
Okay.
And the tent went up in flames. And there was a baby, her youngest sister, under a year old, I think like 8 or 9 months old at the time. And she went to rescue the baby, and the tent collapsed on her. So I grew up and was partially raised around my great aunt, who was covered. I don't remember the exact number, but it was something like 80% of her body was covered in burns and scars. The baby did not survive because of the smoke inhalation. And my great aunt was covered basically head to toe in scars and burn marks from her face down to her hands, and it scarred her hands and her face quite badly. Beautiful soul, beautiful woman. I also have another family member who had, I'm not going to get into that one, but and they grew up with scars, but it wasn't from fire, it was from something completely different. There are things that we go through that we may be terrified of in this lifetime, that are from past lifetimes that we have to break cycles. And they are very freaking hard to break sometimes. But when we break that cycle, because that fear will continue in numerous different lifetimes until you break it. So it becomes a learning lesson. And God, learning lessons are a pain in the goddamn ass. I kid you not, they are really atrocious to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And no one wants to deal with them because why do you want... it's easier to avoid. But here's the thing. If you can break the cycle of the fear factor of it and learn from it, you can move forward and move through it to get to a better place and to live a different way in your life on a regular basis. That said, I'm not necessarily advocating on one hand, Lou. Sorry, I just had an image of a gray ET head just pop into my head. Pop into low.
Huh.
What the hell is that about? Anyway, that's a very specific gray, too. I know that race.
Was it my dad?
Oh my god, woman!
Hi, Pop. It's been a long time.
Let's not lie. He's not coming back. He
Thanks
went
for
for milk.
coming to my show.
Kayla, he ain't coming back. He went for milk.
Oh, man. Alien milk.
The blue one.
Anyway, if we can overcome our... And it's hard to do. It's not easy. I've broken so many of these cycles in my lifetime, in this lifetime, that... and it's hard.
It's like, you know, she's afraid of cars and driving too. I think we've talked about that before.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something
That's
to
why
overcome.
I don't have a license.
Yeah, I mean, these are just things, you know, and they kind of want you to learn from it. And that's just, you know, you're meant to learn. We all are.
Rosella is exactly right in the fact that, yeah, you do have a right to say, I don't want this right now. But at the same time, you have the power within you to shut it down. And a lot of psychics will tell you, well, that's bullshit, and that's not right. Yes, actually, you do.
Yeah,
you have the power within yourself to actually shut it down.
Like I did it till I was 37, 38. I did that. And, you know, they fought me. And it was like, okay, I have to do my mission. I can't ignore this anymore. God wants me to do this. And who the hell is going to say no to God and, you know, not think there's a repercussion? But I did for a really long time. So, you know, they were trying to get through to me. And that is what my book is about. So when other people have these gifts and they're doing the same thing too, you know, it's to kind of like take the sting and the fear out of it, as well as also telling people a message of, you know, please don't commit suicide. That kind of, there's several, but that's a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
there's
we
so
have
many
to learn.
consequences to that one.
Yes. Right.
All right.
Friend, we do have to end the show here, friend. But I do want to just hopefully give everyone a little bit of a smile. I do have one more thing that happened on South Skagit that I'm very upset because no one else saw it because I was alone.
Oh.
But I was driving around a corner where, a stretch of the road where one side is the river and the other side is a mountain face that's got about a 5-foot cliff up from the road. Friend, I'm driving along and I'm doing about 55. If you're a cop and you're listening, don't pick and ticket me, friend. But I'm driving along and then all of a sudden this big brown blur drops to the ground beside me on the mountainside. And I look out the passenger side and an elk stands up beside my car and he is running with me. And he is doing 55 miles an hour.
That's a
friend. No.
What the?
This thing, it was trapped on our side of the river and couldn't get out. And my car must have freaked him out. And he ran with me for about a minute. And I looked at him, he looked at me, and he nodded and turned around and went the other way. Friend,
It is
Wow.
the best interaction I've ever had with a wild animal, and I absolutely loved it. But I'm so lucky he landed beside the car, not on
And
the car.
not-
Yeah.
Friend.
Exactly.
So lucky.
So we will be back next week at 10 p.m. The last thing I want to leave the show with
Pacific
is,
Standard Time.
Yeah, Pacific Standard Time. Again, there is hope in this world for a lot of
Yes,
people,
there
for
is.
some people, and because they have now proven that Elon Musk is not a Nazi, because the Nazis were good at making cars. So, friend,
I don't even know how to respond to that.
friend, it's my favorite joke this week. Friend. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Next week, I have no idea yet what we're going to do. We'll probably talk about it for a minute after the show, and then I will let you guys all know. So thank you again, and remember, like and subscribe. Friend, good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good
Bye.
night.
Data transfer complete. System malfunction. Please evacuate immediately. Program terminated.